Friend has been recently become single. She had been widowed, and she's very young. She's only about 36, 37 years of age, and she was pretty looking a little lost in terms of what she should do with her money. It is not as though she's not very educated, but she's not a financial services person. She's not a finance person at all. Her husband was also not a finance person, and therefore it set me off thinking, what should I do? And so she sat with me and she said, she's not so much of a friend, but referred by a friend rather than I hardly knew her. I knew about her, but I had not even met her. I knew her husband somewhat, but not really. I had not given any advice or anything that they did. So she came to me and she was a little vague in her questions. Should I pay off all the debt? Should I surrender my credit card? What should I do? My income has dropped 30 to 40% because of the husband's death. She was earning slightly more than him, but still the standard of living, you know how it is, the standard of living is that of a joint family, right? Joint income. So 2 children, both in good schools. And luckily for her, husband was well insured, and company had taken care of all their requirements very well. So the company had paid for all his medical bills. Of course, one good thing or bad thing, I don't know, is his death was not so sudden. It was not like a motorcycle accident and gone off in the next day kind of a thing. No, he's just it was known. So she was kind of prepared for it, but she was not prepared for it so quickly. She thought maybe it is 3 years time she'll get. She got less than 3 months. So she was little vague in terms of what should I be doing? Should I be spending less? Should I be saving more? What should be the change in my standard of living? What should I do? And little vague, a little worried, little hassled, but she comes from good families in the sense that both her parents and her in-laws are rich. So she is going to get a lot of money. All her siblings have rallied around her. Her husband's siblings have rallied around her, and they have all said any money problem. In fact, her father-in-law has agreed to fund the kids' education right up to Ivy League kind of stuff. So money is not really a problem, but yes, managing is not going to be very easy. I wouldn't know how the father-in-law would react if she got married again, right? So you have to be worried about all those things, right? When you're single, either by choice, if you're widowed, it's not really by choice, right? So this woman was not at all by choice. Not that she would have divorced him or anything. So she would have stayed on in the marriage for a long time. So she said, name some of the things that I should do first on day one, off the bat. What should I do? So the first thing was to get all the assets transferred in her name. There is absolutely no denying that. Luckily for her, her husband had seen one of my videos, had made a will and made a very nice comprehensive will. So the house came to her automatically. The loan was settled by the insurance. He had a term insurance just for the house, so that got settled. The company had a term insurance which were some 2 years or 5 years CTC or something. So that money came in that she didn't even know that it existed. Apart from that, he had an insurance to cover the children's education. So that was a nice amount of money, the big chunky amount of money which came in. All their mutual funds, whatever was there, was in joint name or either or survivor. So that moved on, that is moving on very smoothly. That's what she tells me. She's handling it. She's got a bank relationship manager and somebody else who's advising, and but she still doesn't know who filed his income tax return. She did not know who's his insurance agent, etc. So I told her the first thing that she has to do is get everything transferred in her name. So she's got that process on. Then I said, get together your team, right? If you're not comfortable with your husband's team, your husband had a good financial advisor, maybe, but you don't know, you're not comfortable. Get your team, get a woman, maybe, get a man. I don't know. I'm not getting into gender biases, but then get a team with which you are comfortable. Get somebody who will look after your investments, somebody will look after your insurance need, your medical insurance, your house insurance, your car insurance, whatever. Get one person, get to know who is that person, right? So first get your own team of people, get your insurance agent, get your life insurance, medical insurance, mutual fund, get that whole team in place, get your income tax advisor in place. All these things of should I save less, should I save more, should I change my standard of living comes much later. So get together, get your team team together in place. That's very useful, and make sure that it fits into your requirement very well. Then I said, typically, which I tell everybody, whether they're making a career move, marriage move, everything, is to start writing down whatever they want out of their financial assets. So I said, first write down what you want from your financial assets. Now this was a family which was reasonably high profile. They used to go on, if not annual, biannual, they would take a trip abroad. I don't think they've seen too much of India, but each of their trips abroad would cost them close to 7-8 lakhs. I mean, family of 4, so 7-8 lakhs is not too high. Maybe even 10 lakhs for a trip to Europe, including Switzerland and things like that. So her first question was, will I be able to do that? Not that it was her first question, but this whole the husband's death happened almost 6-7 months back. So slowly she's coming to terms with herself. She's got all those assets transferred in her name. She's found some credit card payments which had to be done, that she paid off quickly. The electricity bill and telephone bills were all being debited from his credit card, and that credit card continues to be on, and so it was getting debited. She was making the payment on time. I said, wait for a minute. If the house is transferred, the electricity meter and the bills, everything have to get transferred to your name. The electricity society charges bill has to get transferred to your name, right? Getting together all the processes, right? So that had to be done. I said, as soon as that happens, she had to make a will. No point in saying husband died, everything got transferred, and she died, and there was not even a will. At least the husband had made all the will, etc. And this will and all were made 4-5 years ago. He was identified with a problem about a year ago, or maybe 6 months ago. So the doctor said, oh, I don't give him more than 3 years. So she thought he'll get 3 years. He actually got 4 months, 5 months, or something like that. Anyway, so the second step which you have to do, apart from putting your team in place, is to make your will, because you don't want your children to be found without a parent and without a will. So all the assets lying somewhere floating in the air, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, with all good intentions, will not be able to do anything unless you get the documentation right. So get your documentation right. Put your fears I would always say this: write down whatever you want from your assets. If you think you're going to get 42% return from your assets, you're not going to get. If you think you're going to get 6% return from your assets, congratulations, you're on the right track. You'll get more, but you'll not get less. But if you think you'll get 42% because you got 42% last year, well, you're not going to get. So putting your team, getting your paperwork right, and then starting to write down. Sit with your children. Our children are not very young, but not very old also. She was 30 when she had a second kid. So the second kid will be about 7-8 years old, and the first kid is about 12 years old. The 12-year-old is a girl, and the 8-year-old is a boy. So the girl is going to be impacted more than the boy about the death, and but the advantage is the older girl is more mature, and so when I met them, I said, why don't you get your daughter also? And she was talking very sensibly. Of course, she's pretty inconsolable in terms of having lost her father, but then at least she's more sensible. That when I was telling her that all this has to be secured, now you are a small team, of course you have your grandparents on both sides, which is really tragic, because it's very difficult to see people younger than you die, and for me also, he is a young boy, right? So it's very difficult to accept these things, but it happens. So then the question is, get your team, get your own will in place, because you don't want that to suffer. Start writing down your put down things on pen to paper, and now start making the investments to suit you. Right? To suit you means you will have to make it in your single name with your daughter as a nominee, or I told her to make it with her mother as the second holder, and with the daughter and the son as a nominee, and very clearly clarifying to the other sibling that this is being done just for convenience. So the mother very quickly, very smart mother, she very quickly made a will, and made her own will, giving away 50% to her and 100% of all these holdings, joint holdings. She included all these joint holdings in her will, saying this does not belong to me. I'm just clarifying that all this belongs to my daughter. Just for convenience, my name has been added, blah blah blah, and everything should belong to my daughter. Beautifully done.